The fluorescent lights of the grocery store flickered weakly overhead, humming like tired hearts that refused to give up, and in that pale glow stood a man whose life had been quietly unraveling. His name was Daniel, a single father of a 2-year-old girl named Emma, her tiny fingers wrapped around a worn-out giraffe plush that had seen better days. He looked down at the coins in his hand, quarters, dimes, and a few pennies, the sad remains of what used to be a paycheck that vanished too quickly on rent, formula, and survival. His eyes were heavy, not just from exhaustion, but from the weight of knowing that every decision mattered, that one mistake could leave them hungry or cold. The cashier's scanner beeped, slicing through the silence as he placed a single pack of diapers on the conveyor belt, its yellow packaging almost mocking him with its brightness. Behind him stood a woman, dressed elegantly, her expression unreadable, her eyes quietly studying the men who stood before her. Her name was Evelyn Hart, the CEO of a successful baby product company, though no one in that store would have guessed it from the way she carried herself that day. She had come there for no particular reason, perhaps just to feel something human again, something real. Her world was one of glass offices, business meetings, and smiles that never reached the eyes. And now, as she watched this man fumble through his coins, she felt something stir inside her chest that she hadn't felt in years, empathy. Daniel's heart pounded as he counted, his hands trembling slightly. He knew the total by heart. He had checked the price online, calculated the tax, even hoped for a discount. But prices had gone up again, and no matter how he arranged those coins, he was short. Just 72 cents short. He swallowed hard, pretending to double-check, praying maybe he had miscounted, maybe there was a miracle hiding among the metal discs in his palm. The cashier, a young woman barely out of high school, shifted awkwardly, her eyes darting toward the line forming behind him. "I'm sorry, sir," she said softly, "it's $3.72. Daniel nodded weakly, forcing a small smile. "Could you maybe take the wipes off?" "I'll get them next time," he whispered, his voice thick with embarrassment. He could feel the stares behind him, the silent judgments, the quiet sighs. But he didn't care about pride anymore. Pride didn't keep a baby dry through the night. He just needed those diapers. Evelyn's gaze softened. She had grown up poor herself, though she rarely admitted it anymore. Her mother used to take her to small stores like this, counting coins the same way, whispering apologies to cashiers who waited patiently. She remembered the shame, the way people would look away, pretending not to notice. And here it was again, only now she was on the other side, watching history replay in someone else's life. Daniel's shoulders sagged as he handed over his last coins. The cashier hesitated before slowly pushing them back. "It's okay," came a calm, steady voice from behind him. Daniel turned, startled. Evelyn stood there, her hand already reaching for her wallet. "I'll take them all," she said quietly. For a second, Daniel thought he had misheard her. "Sorry, what?" "All the diapers," she said, her voice firm but kind. "Every pack in this store. Put them on my card." The cashier blinked in confusion, unsure if she was serious. The line behind them froze. Daniel's mouth opened, then closed again. "Ma'am, you don't have to, I know," she interrupted softly, "but I want to." She looked at the little girl in his arms. "She deserves to be taken care of." Daniel felt a lump form in his throat. He hadn't cried in months, maybe years. Not when his wife left, not when he lost his job, not even when eviction notices piled up. But now, in the middle of a grocery store, with a stranger's kindness pouring over him like sunlight after a storm, he couldn't stop the tears. "Thank you," he whispered hoarsely, his voice cracking. Evelyn simply smiled. "Don't thank me," she said. "Just promise you'll keep going." For her. The cashier began scanning multiple packs of diapers as instructed, and the rhythmic beeping filled the air again. But this time, the sound didn't sting. It felt hopeful, almost like music. Evelyn didn't stop there. She added baby wipes, formula, and a small stuffed giraffe identical to the one Emma clutched. When Daniel tried to refuse, she just shook her head. "I'm not doing charity," she said softly. "I'm doing what I wish someone had done for my mother once." Her words hung in the air, heavy with memory. Daniel didn't know what to say. He felt small and seen all at once, like the universe had cracked open for a moment and shown him that not all days end in darkness. As the cashier bagged everything, Evelyn reached out and tucked a small business card into one of the bags. "If you ever need help finding work," she said gently, "call this number. I own a company that could use someone who knows what it means to fight for family." Daniel looked down at the card, Heart Baby Products. The name sounded familiar, like something he'd seen on the very diapers he'd just bought. But before he could speak, Evelyn gave him a small nod, turned, and walked away. The automatic doors slid open, the cold evening air rushing in as she disappeared into the fading light. Daniel stood there for a long time, holding his daughter close, the grocery bags at his feet. He looked at Emma, who smiled up at him with sleepy eyes. "Say thank you, sweetheart," he whispered. The child waved her tiny hand toward the door where Evelyn had gone. Outside, Evelyn sat in her car for a moment before starting the engine. Her hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. It had been years since she'd felt anything real, years of boardrooms and balance sheets, of pretending she was whole. But something about that man, about that child's eyes, had cracked open a door she'd closed long ago. She thought of her own father, who had left before she could even remember his face, and her mother, who had worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. And suddenly, she understood that maybe success wasn't about how much you had, but what you did with it. Daniel walked home that night with Emma asleep in his arms. The streets were quiet, the city lights glowing faintly through the fog. For the first time in a long time, the air didn't feel heavy. There was still uncertainty, yes. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight, there was hope. He laid Emma gently in her crib, pulled the new blanket over her, and sat down beside her, staring at the business card again. Maybe he would call tomorrow. Maybe things could change. As tears filled his eyes again, he whispered a small prayer, not just for himself, but for the stranger who had reminded him that the world still had goodness in it. Days passed, and Daniel finally called the number. To his surprise, Evelyn herself answered. She remembered him instantly and offered him a position in her company's warehouse, a steady job, with benefits and dignity. He started the next week, and though the work was hard, every paycheck felt like a blessing. Months later, at the company's annual charity gala, Evelyn stood on stage, speaking about compassion and humanity in business. She paused midway through her speech, scanning the audience until her eyes found Daniel, dressed neatly, holding Emma in his arms. "Sometimes," she said, smiling through tears, "the smallest acts of kindness can change the course of 2 lives, yours and theirs." The crowd applauded, but Evelyn didn't care about the attention. She cared that somewhere in that applause, there was healing. Daniel felt his chest tighten with emotion. He had once believed he was invisible, another face lost in a world that didn't care. But one moment, one simple act, had rewritten his story. And as he looked at Emma, laughing in his arms, he knew she would grow up knowing that kindness was still the most powerful force in the world. Outside the hall, rain began to fall, tapping softly against the windows like a lullaby. Evelyn stood by the glass, watching it, feeling peaceful for the first time in years. Daniel approached her, hesitant but grateful. "I still don't know how to thank you," he said quietly. She smiled. "You already did," she replied. "By not giving up." The two shared a quiet moment, unspoken understanding between them, 2 souls from different worlds connected by something deeper than circumstance, humanity. And as the rain continued to fall, washing the city clean, Evelyn realized that maybe life had given her all the wealth she needed, not in money, but in moments like this. The night ended with laughter, hope, and a sense that sometimes, the universe brings people together for reasons beyond our comprehension. And to those watching, to anyone feeling like life has run out of miracles, this story whispers a truth: kindness still exists, and even in your darkest hour, light can find you when you least expect it. So if you're listening, if this story touched your heart even a little, remember this: someone out there needs your compassion just as much as you need hope. Never underestimate what your small act can do, it might just change a life. And if you believe in stories that heal, that remind us to stay kind, stay human, then subscribe to our channel, because together, we'll keep spreading the kind of light the world can never have too much of.